Okay, so at this point in our Keystone prep, we should be pretty familiar with all of the fiction skills and sample questions. So we are now going to jump into Module 2, which would be nonfiction. So we're going to look at the assessment anchors or skills in nonfiction that you will see in Module 2 of your Keystone Literature exam. So we're going to take a look at the first set of skills. And the first one here is using appropriate strategies to analyze an author's purpose and how it is achieved in literature. This is going to look very, very similar to what you saw in nonfiction, as a lot of these skills are repeated. And the difference here is going to be that you need to find these things in a nonfiction piece, which is going to be a different set of skills than you would see in fiction. So we are still going to figure out why an author wrote a text, what is their intended purpose. We still need to find and analyze and describe examples of a text that supports the author's intended purpose. We still need to be able to analyze, interpret, and evaluate how authors use techniques and elements of nonfiction to effectively communicate an idea or a concept, and explain how an author's use of keywords or phrases in a text informs or influences the reader. So some of these are going to be a little bit different here in nonfiction than what you saw in Module 1. So what does this look like in terms of sample questions that you might see that go along with author's purpose in nonfiction? One sample question might say, what is the author's purpose for writing the passage? Very straightforward. Why did the author write what they did? To share facts, to give an account on a specific time, to compare herself to other working nurses, to describe the way the hospital is managed. So you'll see that these reasons are all supporting a nonfiction passage. So just like in fiction, an author writes for a certain reason. Are they informing you? Are they persuading you? Why are they writing it? Another sample question, which additional information would best support the author's purpose? So this would require you to know what the purpose is in order to figure out which of these choices would support that. Either dialogue between the author and the people that he meets, details about why the author has traveled, the names of people the author meets, an explanation of where the author has traveled before. Which of these help you and support whatever that author's purpose is? Another sample will require you to read a sentence. Sydney Harbor is shaped somewhat like an oak leaf, a roomy sheet of lovely blue water with narrow offshoots of water running up into the country on both sides between long fingers of land. How does the author's use of imagery in this sentence help to communicate an idea? So in this sentence, you do see imagery where they are describing very vividly a picture to you so that you can visualize it. Why does the author use that imagery? What idea are they communicating? This kind of goes into the realm of purpose. So does it give a vivid description? Does it give details to portray? Does it give a bland description? Does it give information to indicate great wealth? Which of these ideas is the author trying to communicate with you based on this little description? Okay, another question might ask you what statement best describes how the author's use of the phrase, the hen laid hard-boiled eggs, influences the reader. So you're looking at specific wording to try to determine, why did the author use those words? What are they trying to influence you, or how are they trying to influence you? Or you might see a constructive response question referring to author's purpose in nonfiction. Something like that might again ask you to take a look at a specific sentence. New York's compact geography and increasingly robust bicycle infrastructure make it ideally situated to reap significant transportation benefits from a bike share program. This is a sentence from a nonfiction text. And so your constructed response might ask you to explain how the author's uses of words compact geography influences the reader. What about those words are important in helping to achieve the purpose, using information from the passage to support your explanation? This is a type of question that you might see related to this skill. So these are all questions that may refer to author's purpose in nonfiction. And as you can see, they really focus more on specific descriptions or sentences or words that an author uses, and trying to get you to understand what is the importance or significance of using those words. How do they impact you as the reader? If we jump down to the next anchor here in nonfiction, this would go back to the idea of vocabulary and clarifying the meaning of vocabulary in literature. Again, it's the same look that you saw in fiction, where you might be able to identify or apply synonyms or antonyms to words. You might try to figure out how a word is changed if a prefix or a suffix is added. You might use context clues to determine or clarify the meaning of unfamiliar words, maybe multiple meaning words or ambiguous words, and then drawing conclusions about connotations of words. These are really the same as you'll see in fiction. It's just that they are more nonfiction terms, or terms that you would see within a nonfiction text. So again, some examples here. Synonym for forbearance. The suffix tion helps the reader know that the word abstraction means. Reading a sentence from a passage to find the context to try to figure out what gregarious means. Again, reading a sentence from the passage and trying to figure out the use of the word glide, or why the word glide is used to describe the birds. You will see that vocabulary in nonfiction might be more academic vocabulary terms. They'll probably be used in context to try to figure out, what are we talking about and what capacity is this word being used. So it is the same skill as fiction, but the words might be a little bit different. The context might be a little bit different. It might be a little bit more technical, or whatever the type of nonfiction passage it is will help to affect the meaning of those words. So vocabulary is a big skill that we need to work on. Okay. And the last one in this set of skills would be to use appropriate strategies to comprehend literature during the reading process. This would be like using reading strategies to explain the stated or implied main ideas, as well as supporting details from a text. This means that questions are going to target very specific paragraphs. It's not going to ask you about the main idea of the passage as a whole, but look at this paragraph. What's the main idea of just this one section? Also will ask you to summarize key details and also events from a nonfiction text in part or as a whole, and then analyze the interrelationship of ideas and events in a text to determine how one idea may interact or influence another. So you might have two different passages, two different events that are being compared together. How do they relate to each other? How do they affect each other? So what these questions might look like: according to the passage, what was Franklin's first job upon arriving in Philadelphia? This is pretty cut and dry. According to the passage, tells you that the answer is found directly in the text. Go back and reread it. This is a comprehension thing. It is a recall type of thing, something that if you go back and take a look at the text, you will see it in black and white print. Reading an incomplete summary of the passage. You saw these in the fiction side of things as well. It might give you 4 different points and ask you which of the answer choices best completes that summary, what belongs in this blank space here to complete this summary of the passage. Or it might be giving you, based on information in the passage, how does the fiber of apples relate to improved heart health? So this is where they are taking one idea in a passage and they are relating it to another idea. How do they go together? What is the connection? How can you compare the two of them? So that would be that interrelationship between two different concepts or ideas. And that is the first set of skills that you will see on Module 2 Nonfiction. Again, it looks pretty similar to fiction, but just because of the nature of the genre of nonfiction, your vocabularies will look different. The way that the author's purpose is utilized is different. And then main ideas, you're going to be looking at very, very specific segments of each of the passages. So next time we'll talk about some more skills, but for now let's kind of take it apart and practice a skill at a time.